When my wife finally said it out loud, the house went quiet, in a way I had never felt before. We were sitting at the kitchen table, the same scratched oak surface where we'd helped our daughter with homework for years, where we'd eaten rushed breakfasts and late dinners, where life was supposed to feel safe. Her hands were wrapped around a mug she wasn't drinking from. Mine were clenched so tightly, my knuckles ached. She didn't cry. That was the first thing that told me this wasn't some emotional slip. "I need to be honest," she said, staring past me instead of at me. "I've had thoughts, fantasies, about you and about him." I felt my chest tighten. "Him who?" She hesitated, then said his name like it was nothing, like it wasn't a grenade rolled across the table. "Evan, her ex. The man she dated before me. The man she swore was ancient history. The man she once described as reckless, immature, someone she'd outgrown." I stood up so fast my chair scraped the floor. For a second, the old version of me, the one who used to fight in boxing rings for money, flared to life. My pulse roared in my ears. My fists remembered things my mind was trying to forget. "I'm sorry," she added quickly, but her tone didn't match the word. "I just don't want secrets between us." I laughed once, a sharp, humorless sound. "So you think confessing fantasies about your ex is honesty?" She finally looked at me then. Her expression wasn't guilt. It wasn't shame. It was irritation. "You're overreacting," she said. "This is exactly what I mean. You're so controlling." That word landed harder than any punch I'd ever taken. Controlling. I'd spent years working as an insurance adjuster, sitting behind desks, wearing pressed shirts instead of gloves, learning how to stay calm, how to de-escalate. I'd thought I'd grown past the man who solved problems with force. But in that moment I felt reduced, framed as a villain for reacting to something that would shatter any marriage. From the hallway, I heard a soft sound. Our daughter. Emma stood there with her backpack still on, frozen halfway into the kitchen. She was 14, and already too good at pretending things were fine when they weren't. She gave us a small, tight smile. "Hey," she said. "I'll be in my room." She turned before either of us could stop her. That was the moment I knew something fundamental had broken. Later that evening, the doorbell rang. I already knew who it would be. She hadn't even warned me. I stepped into the garage before answering, my body moving on instinct. The smell of oil and cold concrete grounded me. I reached for the tire iron hanging on the wall. Not to use it, I told myself, just to hold something solid. When I opened the door from the garage, he was standing there, hands in his pockets, wearing that same smug half-smile I remembered from photos years ago. "Hey, man," Evan said. "Didn't mean to cause any trouble." I didn't invite him inside. I stepped closer instead, lifting the tire iron just enough that he could see it. "You leave," I said quietly. "Right now." His smile faltered. Inside the house, my wife's voice rose. "What are you doing out there?" I didn't look back. "This isn't a conversation," I told him. "You walk away, or this gets very uncomfortable." He swallowed, nodded once, and backed down the driveway without another word. When I went back inside, she was furious. "You embarrassed me," she snapped. "You scared him." I stared at her, realizing I didn't recognize the woman in front of me. "You invited your ex into our house," I said. "And I'm the problem?" She laughed. Actually laughed. "You're pathetic," she said. "You know that?" That night, I slept on the couch. The next morning, she acted like nothing had happened. She made coffee. She hummed. She asked if I'd seen her phone charger. And our daughter watched us both with the careful eyes of someone learning, far too young, how adults lie. I went to the gym after work that day, back to the old boxing place on the edge of town. My trainer, Rick, didn't ask many questions. He never did. He just wrapped my hands and told me to hit the bag until my arms burned. "Don't fight with your fists," he said finally. "Fight smart." When I came home that evening, she was standing in our bedroom, laying out a new black dress on the bed, the kind she wore when she wanted to be noticed, when she wanted to feel desired. Something in my gut twisted. I didn't confront her, not yet, because somewhere between the kitchen table confession and the smug smile on her ex's face, I understood something clearly for the first time. If she wanted to paint me as controlling, then I would stop reacting. I would start observing, and I would let the truth destroy the lies on its own. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay on the couch staring at the ceiling, listening to the quiet hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of her footsteps moving around the bedroom. Every sound felt deliberate, rehearsed, like she was already living a separate life, one where I was just an obstacle she hadn't finished stepping around yet. In the morning, I watched her like I'd never watched her before. She kissed my cheek on her way out, light and quick, the way you kiss a relative, not a husband. She told Emma she loved her. She reminded me, casually, that she'd be late because of work stuff. That phrase stuck with me. Work stuff. I drove to the office but couldn't focus. Numbers blurred together. Risk assessments felt meaningless when my entire life was suddenly one unresolved claim waiting to explode. Around noon, I did something I'd never done before. I checked our shared account. There it was. A charge from a downtown hotel cafe. Nothing dramatic. Just enough to make my stomach sink. We didn't go there. Not together. Not ever. That evening she came home smelling like wine and a cologne I didn't own. I asked her a simple question. Calm. Controlled. "Do you still love me?" She didn't answer right away. She took off her shoes, lined them up carefully, buying time. "I'm exhausted," she said. "Why are you interrogating me?" That was answer enough. After she went to bed, I stayed up and did something that felt wrong, but necessary. I opened the drawer where she kept old paperwork. Beneath receipts and expired warranties, I found a folded hotel bill. Different date, same place. My hands shook, but my mind was suddenly clear. This wasn't imagination. This wasn't insecurity. This was a pattern. Over the next few days, I didn't confront her. I watched. I noticed how she angled her phone away from me, how her smile changed when certain messages came through, how she suddenly cared more about her appearance on random weekday evenings than she ever had for our anniversaries. On Thursday night, she said she needed air. "I just need a walk," she told me. "You don't have to follow me everywhere." I didn't respond. I waited 5 minutes, grabbed my keys, and followed from a distance. She didn't walk far. She walked straight to the parking lot, behind the old cafe, near the river. He was already there. They didn't rush. That hurt the most. No urgency, no guilt, just familiarity. He leaned against his car. She stepped into his space like it belonged to her. When he kissed her, it wasn't stolen. It was practiced. I raised my phone and took one photo. Just one. Then I walked back to my car and sat there until my breathing slowed. I didn't feel rage anymore. I felt resolve. Back home, she slipped into bed beside me like nothing had happened. Her breathing evened out quickly, She slept like someone who believed she was in control of the story. I stared into the darkness and made a decision that terrified me with its calmness. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to explode. And I wasn't going to be painted as the villain in a story where I was the one betrayed. If she wanted to call me controlling, then I would take control of the truth. And when it came out, it wouldn't be in whispers. It would be in light. The next morning, I woke up before my alarm. She was still asleep beside me, turned slightly away, her phone face down on the nightstand, like a secret she trusted more than me. For a brief, dangerous moment, I almost woke her, almost asked her to tell me the truth, without the performance, without the gaslighting, without calling me controlling or insecure. But I already knew the truth, and knowing it changed everything. I moved through the day, quietly, deliberately. I answered emails, returned calls, even laughed once during a meeting, surprised by how normal my voice sounded. It was like my body had switched into survival mode while my heart sat somewhere far behind, trying to catch up. That afternoon, I called Mike. Mike had trained me years ago, back when boxing was my outlet, and anger had a place to go. He picked up on the second ring. "You sound off," he said before I could even speak. We met at the gym after closing. The place smelled like old leather and disinfectant, familiar and grounding. I wrapped my hands slowly, buying myself time. "She's seeing him," I finally said. "And she thinks I don't know." Mike didn't ask who. He didn't need to. He leaned against the ropes and studied me the way he used to before a fight. "Then don't fight blind," he said. "And don't fight with your fists." I hit the bag harder than I needed to. Each punch wasn't rage, it was precision, control, restraint. "She keeps saying I'm controlling," I said between breaths. "Like I'm the problem." Mike nodded. "That's how people rewrite history. Makes it easier to live with themselves." That sentence stayed with me. When I got home, she was getting ready to go out again. Black dress laid across the bed, makeup half done, music playing softly, like this was just another normal night in a normal marriage. "Work thing," she said, without looking at me. "I'll be late." I smiled, not because I felt fine, but because I finally understood the game. "Have fun," I said. She paused, just for a second. Suspicion flickered across her face. Then it was gone. That night, I didn't follow her. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table and started documenting everything: dates, times, charges, locations, screenshots, photos, patterns. I wasn't doing this out of spite, I was doing it because I knew what came next. When confronted, she wouldn't admit the truth. She'd deny, minimize, reframe. She'd cry. She'd accuse me of spying, invading her privacy, being obsessed. I needed facts that didn't care about tone or tears. Around midnight, my phone buzzed. A message from a number I hadn't saved, but recognized immediately. "You should stop digging. You're only going to embarrass yourself." I stared at the screen, my pulse steady. So he knew. That meant she had told him about me, about my questions, about my silence. I typed one response. Just one. "You're not the man you think you are." Then I turned the phone face down and went to bed. She came home later than usual, slipped under the covers quietly, her body pressed against mine, warm and familiar, like nothing had changed. I didn't move. I stared at the wall and understood something with brutal clarity. She wasn't afraid of losing me. She was afraid of being exposed, and that meant I wasn't powerless. I was just early. By the time the house went quiet again, I already knew I wasn't going to sleep. Her side of the bed was still warm when I got up. I stood in the doorway for a long moment, listening to the faint hum of the refrigerator, the ticking clock in the hallway, ordinary sounds from a life that suddenly felt staged, like a set built around a lie. I didn't rush. I didn't storm around looking for proof like a man possessed. I moved carefully. I started with the trash. Receipts have a way of telling the truth when people don't. Crumpled paper, half torn, meant to be forgotten. At the bottom of the bag, under coffee cups and junk mail, I found it. A hotel receipt. Downtown. Not cheap. 1 night. 2 guests. The date matched one of the nights she'd said she was working late with the team. My chest tightened, but my hands didn't shake. I laid it flat on the counter and took a photo. Then I checked the credit card statements online. I didn't need to dig far. The same hotel, twice more, same bar downstairs, same charge for wine that I knew she liked, the one she never ordered with me because she said it was overpriced. That detail hurt more than I expected. I went back to the bedroom and opened her laptop. She'd left it unlocked. Another small sign of how safe she felt. How little she thought I'd ever cross that invisible line. Her email was worse. Not graphic, not dramatic, just familiar. Intimate in a way that comes from repetition, not passion. Plans. Inside jokes. Complaints about me that read like rehearsed lines. He's being weird lately. I feel watched. I just want to feel like a woman again. I took screenshots. Saved everything to a folder I labeled with the date. Facts don't need titles. When she came home the next morning, she was humming. Actually humming. She kissed me on the cheek, asked if I wanted eggs or toast, talked about a charity event she was organizing for work. She looked relaxed, confident, untouchable. That confidence told me everything. She thought she was winning. Later that evening, she mentioned the work party. "You don't need to come," she said casually, like she was doing me a favor. "It's mostly coworkers. Boring stuff." I looked up from my phone. "I'll come." She froze. Just a fraction of a second, but enough. "Why?" she asked too quickly. "Because you're my wife," I said, "and I feel like supporting you." She forced a smile. "It's really not necessary." That settled it. The restaurant was loud and polished, full of people pretending to relax while advertising success. I saw her before she saw me, standing near the bar, laughing too hard, one hand resting on his arm. Trent. He looked exactly how I imagined. Confident posture. Perfect suit. The kind of smile men wear when they think they've already won. When she noticed me, her face drained of color. I walked over calmly, shook hands, introduced myself, like this was the first time I'd heard his name. He squeezed my hand a little too hard. A message. I smiled. A waiter passed with a tray of drinks. I reached for one, turned too fast, and let the whiskey spill straight down Trent's white shirt. "Oh, sorry," I said. "Clumsy?" The table went silent. I raised my glass. "A toast," I said, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "To colleagues who care very deeply about each other." Someone laughed nervously. Someone else looked away. Trent lunged. Old instincts kicked in before thought did. I stepped aside, let momentum do the work. Chairs scraped. Voices rose. Security rushed in. They pulled us apart. She was crying. Not from fear, from exposure. As I walked out, escorted but calm, I felt something shift inside me. Not rage, relief. Because now I knew something she didn't. This wasn't the beginning of the end. It was just the point where the truth stopped hiding. After that night, the house felt different. Like every wall had overheard something it couldn't forget. She didn't speak to me for 2 days. Not really. She moved around the house like a guest who'd overstayed her welcome, answering questions with single words, keeping her phone face down, sleeping on the edge of the bed as if distance alone could erase what had happened. Our daughter watched us carefully, too carefully for her age, pretending nothing was wrong while absorbing everything. On the 3rd day, she sat across from me at the kitchen table, arms crossed, jaw tight. "You humiliated me," she said, in front of everyone. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't interrupt. "I didn't humiliate you," I said calmly. I showed up. Her eyes flashed. "You had no right." I slid my phone across the table. Not dramatically, just enough. The hotel receipt. The dates. The messages. Blurred names, but unmistakable words. Familiar phrases. Private jokes that didn't belong to me. She stared at the screen. For a long moment, there was nothing. No denial. No anger. Then she laughed. A short, sharp sound. Defensive. Cruel. "So you went through my things," she said. "That's who you are now. Controlling. Paranoid." I nodded slowly. "And you slept with him." Silence dropped between us like a heavy object. She looked away first. "I was lonely," she said finally. "You were never there. You stopped seeing me." I wanted to laugh, or scream, or ask her when exactly she'd decided that betrayal was a reasonable response to boredom. Instead, I said, "You could have told me." She shook her head. "You wouldn't have listened." That was when I understood something important. She wasn't sorry. She was inconvenienced. That night, I didn't sleep in the bed. I took a blanket to the couch and lay there, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the last few years, every compromise, every time I chose peace over truth, silence over confrontation. I realized how small I'd made myself to keep the marriage intact. The next morning, I started documenting everything: dates, times, locations, charges, messages. I didn't do it out of spite. I did it because facts are the only language liars respect. I followed patterns. Tuesdays and Thursdays, late meetings, fresh air walks that always ended near the same neighborhood. Perfume she only wore when she was nervous or excited. One night I followed her. I parked half a block away and watched her walk up to his door without hesitation. No knocking, no pause, like it was routine. When he pulled her into an embrace, intimate and familiar, something inside me finally broke, but not in the way I expected. The pain didn't sharpen. It clarified. I wasn't the problem. I drove home without confronting them. Sat in the car for a long time, hands on the wheel, breathing slowly. That was the moment I decided. I wasn't going to beg, I wasn't going to explode, and I definitely wasn't going to let this end quietly. If she wanted a performance, I would make sure the truth had the spotlight. From that moment on, I became invisible by choice. I smiled when I was supposed to. I nodded during conversations. I played my role so well that even she relaxed, started believing I was broken, confused, defeated. That was her mistake. We had a rehearsal dinner coming up. Families, friends, laughter forced through clenched teeth. She floated through it like a bride in a magazine. Perfect posture, effortless charm, hand resting lightly on my arm as if nothing between us had rotted. I watched her closely. She laughed too easily. She avoided my eyes when her phone buzzed. She touched my hand only when someone was watching. Every detail went into my mental ledger. That night, after everyone left, I asked her casually where she'd been earlier. "With Lauren," she said instantly. Too fast. Rehearsed. I nodded. "That's nice." She relaxed, kissed my cheek, went to shower. 10 minutes later, my phone vibrated. Jake. She wasn't with Lauren. She was with him. Same place as last time. I stared at the screen, feeling that strange calm settle in again. Not rage, not despair. Control. The next morning, I asked her again, this time gently. Did you end up staying long with Lauren? She froze for half a second. Just enough. Yeah, she said. Why? No reason, I replied. Just curious. Her eyes searched my face, looking for cracks. Finding none, she turned away. That was when I knew. She thought she'd won. Over the next 2 days, she became perfect. Too perfect. Breakfast in bed, sudden affection. Long conversations about our future, about kids, about how lucky we were to have found each other. She promised she'd blocked him. She promised she'd changed. I let her talk. On the third night, she said she needed air. Just a walk. Clear her head. I waited 5 minutes, then I followed. Same jacket, same route, same destination. When I saw them together again, her laughing, his hand on her waist, I didn't hesitate. I raised my phone and took the photo. Clean, clear, undeniable. The kiss wasn't hurried. It wasn't guilty. It was comfortable. That photo wasn't just proof. It was the end. I went home and packed a small bag, not because I was leaving, but because I wanted to be ready for whatever came next. The wedding was in 2 days. She was glowing, excited, talking about vows, seating charts, music. She had no idea she was walking toward a stage she hadn't prepared for. I slept better that night than I had in weeks. Because when you stop hoping someone will choose you and start choosing yourself, everything becomes very simple. The morning of the wedding arrived quietly. No thunder, no dramatic signs from the universe, just sunlight slipping through the curtains like it had every other day of my life. That felt important. I watched her while she got ready, moving through the room with nervous energy, humming to herself, checking her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. She kept smiling at me, that practiced smile, the one meant to reassure both of us. I matched it. Inside, everything was already decided. At the venue, people hugged me, clapped me on the back, told me how lucky I was. Her parents thanked me for taking such good care of her. Friends joked about how calm I seemed for a groom on his wedding day. They had no idea how calm clarity can be. She stayed away from me most of the morning. Tradition, she said. Bad luck to see the bride. I didn't argue. I didn't need to see her to know exactly who she was anymore. Jake arrived early. He didn't say much, just looked at me, then nodded once. You good? He asked. I am, I said, and for the first time, I meant it. The ceremony began. Music swelled. Guests turned in their seats. She walked down the aisle looking radiant, confident, untouched by guilt. If I hadn't known the truth, I might have believed in the illusion too. She reached the altar and took my hands. They were warm, steady, not trembling at all. The officiant began speaking about love, about trust, about choosing each other every day. I listened carefully. When it was time for vows, she went first. She spoke beautifully, about loyalty, about honesty, about building a life together with no secrets. People wiped tears from their eyes. I smiled at her and let her finish. Then the officiant turned to me. And do you take? I don't, I said. The room froze. A sharp intake of breath rippled through the crowd. Someone laughed nervously, thinking it was a joke. The officiant blinked, confused. I'm sorry, he asked. I don't, I repeated, louder this time.
Her grip tightened on my hands. "What are you doing?" she whispered, panic flashing through her eyes for the first time. I let go. "I won't marry someone who spent last night with her ex," I said calmly. Gasps, murmurs, shock spreading like a wave. "That's not true," she said immediately, voice shaking. "He's lying." I reached into my pocket and held up my phone. "I wish I were." I turned the screen outward. The photo was clear. Her face, his hands, their lips pressed together under a streetlight she'd passed 100 times before. Silence crashed down on the room. She stared at the screen like it was a foreign object. Then she shook her head, desperate. "It's not what it looks like," she said. "Please, let me explain." "I gave you weeks," I replied. "Multiple chances. All I asked for was honesty." She opened her mouth again, but no sound came out. I looked at the guests, our families, our friends, people who had flown in believing they were witnessing a beginning. "I'm sorry you had to see this," I said, "but I won't lie to protect someone who lied to me." I stepped back from the altar. The officiant didn't stop me. No one did. As I walked down the aisle alone, I felt something lift off my chest, something heavy I hadn't realized I'd been carrying. Behind me, she collapsed into sobs. Ahead of me, the doors were open, and for the first time in a long while, so was my future. I didn't look back when I stepped outside. The air felt different, cooler, cleaner, like the world hadn't ended at all, only a lie had. Jake was already there, leaning against his car, hands in his pockets. He didn't ask questions. He didn't need to. We drove for a while in silence. No music, no commentary. Just the road stretching forward and the sound of tires against asphalt. Finally, he pulled into a small bar on the edge of town. The kind of place where nobody cares who you are or what you were supposed to become. We sat. We drank. Not to forget, but to mark the moment. "She really thought she could have both," Jake said quietly. "Yeah," I replied. "That's what hurts the most." The next morning, my phone exploded. Missed calls, texts, voicemails from her parents, from mine, from numbers I didn't recognize. Long messages filled with apologies, explanations, promises to fix everything. I didn't answer any of them. 2 days later, she came to my apartment. She looked nothing like the woman who'd walked down the aisle. No makeup, swollen eyes, hair pulled back like she hadn't slept. She stood there holding herself together with sheer will. "I made a mistake," she said. "I panicked. I was scared of the wedding, of forever. It didn't mean anything." I let her talk. She offered everything: therapy, transparency, blocking him, changing cities if I wanted. She cried when she realized none of it was landing. "This isn't about him," I told her when she finally ran out of words. "It's about trust, and you killed it." She nodded slowly, like she'd known that was the truth all along. When she left, she didn't slam the door. That felt fitting. The weeks after were strange. People chose sides. Rumors spread. Some said I'd overreacted. Others said I was brave. I didn't argue with any of them. Peace doesn't need defense. I went back to work, back to the gym, back to running by the lake early in the morning, when the city is quiet and honest. I lost the wedding deposit, lost the venue, lost the future I'd planned, down to the smallest detail. But I didn't lose myself. One night I found the old wedding playlist on my phone. I listened to it all the way through, not with sadness, but with clarity. It reminded me how close I'd come to betraying my own instincts just to keep a dream alive. I deleted it when the last song ended. She moved away not long after, changed her number. Her ex disappeared too, blocked her, moved on, just like I knew he would. People like that always do. As for me, I didn't need revenge. I didn't need closure from her. I already had it. I stood up in front of everyone and chose myself. And if there's one thing I learned from all of this, it's this. Never apologize for protecting your peace. Never ignore your intuition, and never stay silent just to keep a lie alive. Walking away was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it was also the bravest, and it saved my life.